Hey everybody, this is the Art Lounge. Welcome to it. My name is Andrew Bosley. We've got Randall Mackey and Eric Wilkerson here. How you guys doing?
Good, how's it going, man?
Good, good. What you guys up to this week? What you guys doing right now?
Right now, I was reminded of an article I read about 10 years ago about Norman Rockwell's next door neighbor that bought a Rockwell from him, bought a painting from Rockwell for like 900 bucks. And uh, then he went through like a bitter divorce. So Rockwell's neighbor was also a painter, and he made an exact duplicate of the painting that Rockwell gave him. And I guess he gave that to his wife, or gave her, or it was given to a museum or something like that. And he kept the original. So for decades, people thought that the replica was the original painting, while he had like one of those false walls like you would see in like a horror film, like the slide away wall.
Uh
He
huh.
had an original Rockwell and a bunch of other replicas and some of his other personal works that he didn't want to give away behind that wall, and it was found like after his death
I think
10 years ago.
I
I was
think I
just
remember that.
reminded of that for some, huh?
I think I remember hearing about that.
Oh yeah, it was really funny to me. Like that's the way to stick it to her. Like, don't give her the original, give her the copy.
So was it? I can't remember. Was it a famous painting? Was it one of his more? If you
I
remember.
think it was. He did a copy of um, the one where the boy's going off to college and
Oh,
they're like sitting on a tractor
his dad.
or
His dad's
something
with
like
him.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So he did a so when you put the two paintings together, they're almost identical. There's some slight color differences, but yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to go back and read the article again. This is just really interesting.
Huh.
But
That's very cool. Yeah, I remember when that came out. Uh, Crazy things, crazy people. I keep going around garage sales hoping I'm going to find, a line decker or something that nobody knows about, and then I'm going to have $1 million and I can retire now.
Would you sell it or keep it?
Oh, you know, I, more than any other artist, I love line decker. I love Rockwell too. But gosh, I mean, you know how much those things go for these days? They're like,
Oh, that's why
uh,
it's a tough question.
yeah,
I,
like certainly
man,
multi million. Uh,
I might keep it until I needed it, until I needed the money more than I needed the painting.
there you go.
well, last year, I think it was last year, or the year before that, a woman found a guy, I can't remember who, found a one of the only existing photographs, like clear photographs of Billy the Kid,
Hmm.
like in a garage sale.
Wow.
Somebody just had like an old picture of the guy like standing in front of a barn in their attic, and who knows however many generations it was passed down, but or had just been sitting, you
It's
know.
just so crazy.
Hmm.
That was it was checked, and I think it sold for a lot of money. So
I
yeah.
bet.
So you never know what's behind somebody's wall.
I know.
There was a little thing. I'm super into airplanes, like classic airplanes, and I have this book that's actually called Classics, but it's all modern HD full color photographs of restored warbirds from World War II. But the whole beginning of the book is really cool. Like they talk about like how they had to piece these things together. I mean, during the war, they built hundreds and thousands of P-51s, but at the end of the war, when they were done and they were obsolete as the jet age was coming on, they literally took them out on aircraft carriers and just dumped them in the ocean, like
Huh.
en masse, like just trashed them all. They junked them all and trashed them in the ocean. So there's only like 11 flying P-51s in the world left today. But like these guys were talking about that restore them, like how big of a project it is, and they have to go find different parts. And like one of the dudes was restoring a German Bf-109, and they needed like some of the gauges or like the fuel gauge, and they found it in some old church attic in like, Belgium. And it's just like there's all these treasures all over the world that are just lost and forgotten, but completely priceless.
Yeah.
You never know.
There you go. I try to read an article a day on just anything random, and I like military stuff and whatnot, and so I go to it's the Wired's Danger Room blog or news feed or whatever. Anyway, they had an article recently about restoring aircraft carriers, and I guess like every aircraft carrier is built to last 50 years. And they expect it to be in service for 50 years, but halfway through that, there's like, I can't remember, and that's dumb because it's a really big difference between these two numbers, but it's like, I think it's 10 years. I think it's a 10-year refurbishment that goes on where they, it's in a dry dock, and they just revamping everything in there. And so it's just a crazy thought that like there'll be just all these people working for, I mean, it's definitely lots and lots of years. It could be a little bit less than that, but still crazy stuff.
Cool. So do we want to start talking about our topic here?
Sure.
So this week we're kind of talking about what we call the Holy Grail jobs and work beyond those. And this came from a discussion that we were having, the three of us, a couple weeks ago. And we were talking about all the work that we have done, and then all the jobs that are out there that you kind of think of as your high profile. I mean, I'll name a few. Like, you think of automatically, like if you want to go to fantasy illustration, you're thinking of Magic is probably one of the first things that pops into your mind. D&D and cover illustration for the big publishers. If you're thinking games, you're thinking of big companies like I want to work at Bungie or I want to work at Blizzard. And you're thinking, I think a lot of that comes from the culture of the internet and the people that are sharing all this really amazing art, and you think like that's where you have to go. And there's nothing against doing those jobs at all. Like we've done some of them, we want to do some of them that we haven't done. But what we want to kind of get into today is work that is maybe less high profile, maybe less glamorous, a little more blue collar. And the three of us have made careers doing freelance work, and some of that has come from pretty non-traditional or ways that we may not have imagined in the beginning. So I guess that's kind of what we want to get into today, is hopefully give some of you hope that are trying to freelance, and also just kind of open your eyes that like these aren't necessarily like this is what you do instead of that. It's just that to kind of make people aware that there's other options, there's other ways to make money for your art and other opportunities out there. So Andrew, you've done some stuff that like maybe wouldn't be, or had some jobs come up that wouldn't be anything that I would have thought could ever have been possible.
Sure. I mean, like I said, we've all got different, several of those things. But I'm trying to think of. I don't know if there was one in particular that started me out, but I've been fortunate enough to, have people contact me for some random things that turned out to be very lucrative, very fun, challenging, stretched me quite a bit. One of these, I won't say the name of the company necessarily, unless I should, I don't know. But I was approached a little ways back by I guess what they would call a production company. They were, they did a variety of things. They did commercials at times. They did their own short films. but they often were, had clients that they were working for in the film industry. And so one of the first things that they asked me to do was they were creating an extra feature for a film. I can say the name of the film. So I don't know if you guys remember the movie Dolphin Tale with.
Like my daughter's favorite movie.
There you go. So if they were creating some extra features for the Blu-ray of that, and they wanted to do an animation, animating this old tale that in the movie. What's the name of the guy? Who's the main star? The singer in the. I like him a lot, but I can't remember his name.
Oh yeah, I know.
Oh my goodness.
Jeff Goldblum?
No.
Wait, never mind.
Who does all the?
He's like the lounge singer guy that's really cool.
Yeah, he's like the.
And he's.
I can't remember his name.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, the main character is telling this story about how it's this. I mean, the story is about this dolphin that's injured, and they, are. I don't know what they're doing. They're just saving it, and the main character tells this old folk tale legend about how dolphins came to be, and so there was just this story that he tells, and so the extra feature animation that I was working on with this company was basically to the words of the main character, but this animation created, and I did all the artwork for it. They ended up animating it, but it was a very large project that probably was 2 or 3 months worth of work slash. I mean, I think that they paid well enough that I, it wasn't straight up the work that I did covered this amount of time. I was actually able to save a little bit from it. It was a really nice lucrative position, but I would never have thought about this as an opportunity. If I were out there trying to find that job. And so since then, I've actually, looked for companies like them, and found other work related to it. So I find myself fairly regularly doing pitch material for commercials, pitch material for games, different things like that. But they don't come through the same they're not where you would look to go. It's not like these are the type of people that would be at GDC or be at some sort of gaming convention, or would have the name recognition that all these other big game companies have, or big film companies have, but they're involved in it and they have a reputation all on their own. They've been working in the field for supporting those industries for a long time, and so they've got the client base, and you're able to just go and help them with it. So that's been one of the things that I've done, and since then I've done that for several other things. What did I? There was one I did a similar animation for. Oh goodness sakes! Woman in Black 2, which was it's not normally my cup of tea. I get a little freaked out with even tame horror stuff, so it was interesting making that one. But anyway, random stuff, that's been fun. I can talk about more.
It's funny, like the pitch stuff. Like one of the first things I did. I mean, I was super early on, and it paid okay, but it's just one of those things. Like it just came out of nowhere. Was I did a bunch of pitch stuff for Paramount. Well, this game company that was was maybe going to make some Facebook games when those were do people still play Facebook games? I don't know. But they were going to make some Facebook games based on some Paramount movies.
Okay.
And so I had the opportunity to do basically 3 pitch things for each movie that was maybe going to be a Facebook game, and what it would look like in the Facebook browser, what the UI would basically look like, what they they had gameplay ideas and all these things. So I basically blocked all that stuff out. But yeah, it's weird to think about. You get stuck in your head that you have to do this route, and it's one of the things we talked about when we talked about 2 weeks ago about going to GDC, and how I said stuck in your head. They have to go stand in the line and get your portfolio reviewed and do all this stuff, and that stuff is all awesome. Like, there's nothing against that and nothing wrong with that, and you should be doing that as well. But I feel like there's a lot of moths gathering around the same flame.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you look at ArtStation, everyone's doing all this awesome, cool art, but everyone's kind of like gearing in towards the same thing, because it's like you see the people that are succeeding and are well known, and it's like you have to do that. Well, everyone's kind of gathering around the same thing, and there's all these other places that need art, that are hungry for artists, that are kind of being left in the dust, but they're paying just as much as anyone else is. And
Sure.
you know, when you have these funded projects, one of the interesting things that I ended up doing a couple of years ago, and this was actually my one cold contact job, so the irony there is kind of funny, but these guys reached out to me and found me on CG Hub literally 4 days before it shut down. So, but they were a group of Canadian guys that had got a grant from the Canadian government, and they were doing games for schools, for high school. It basically it's an RPG like D&D style that turns your high school classroom into a year-long RPG where everyone is broken into teams of 3, and you level up and you do all this cool stuff. Well, they needed all this hand-drawn art for it, and so that, I mean, probably 5 months I worked for them, maybe more, and they were paying rates that were competitive with anything else in the game industry.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things, like, you just would never think that that would be a thing that's out there, as like an educational school game that's not even a video game at all.
Yeah. I've done
Cool.
I've done the same. I remember for a short while I was employed, you know, very heavily by this educational game company, and it paid well. It was a nice gig, but again, it was just one of these random things. It's only interesting. But what you were talking about, you're bringing up GDC, and we haven't talked about it yet. No, that's a big deal, but following our conversation 2 weeks ago, I decided that I was going to bite the bullet and go to GDC, and and that sounds funny based on what we were just saying. Like, going to GDC is about getting these big jobs and stuff, and it's funny because I'm not approaching it that way. I've almost going back to this Holy Grail thing. Like, I know I am going to probably go and stop by the arts lounge or the career area and try to talk to some companies, but there's going to be 1,000 students that are going to be waiting to talk to Riot or Bungie or whatever. And what I've found from experience is that there, like you were saying, there's these companies that are out there that it's not like they're never going to find someone to work for them if you don't get there, but they're not, people aren't banging down their door as much as they are at other places, and you might have an opportunity to talk to. So like I'm really excited to go and meet smaller companies, because many of these companies also have just as much of a good budget as bigger companies, and or sometimes better, and they might be the ones that either challenge me a little bit more, but they're also not going to be the ones that are going, okay, we've got this exact style that we've created over decades of game making, and so you have to stick to this style in order for us to even consider you, which is I'm too far along to change and alter my entire style just to meet one individual company. These smaller companies are, anyway, there's a lot of opportunities out there. I'm excited for next week to go, because I'm hoping I can get to know those people.
I think one of the things that's maybe not thought of is, first off, there's like, there's bad games, there's bad video games that are made, right? It's how it is. It's like there's bad movies. But what's interesting, if you look at like game stuff, is that almost all the bad games still have good art, right? Like there's good art behind them. Like, you look at a game that comes out, and maybe a game was great, but it only was around for maybe it had a really short lifespan. You know, one of the games I think of is like Evolve. Like, that game came out and it was really good. It was really fun. It was a really cool idea. And maybe I'm just based on what my group are in, but I don't think like the servers were that full of people playing, you know, months down the road. Like, some of these games have this super long living online community. But that game just has amazing art, like all this art and all this dedication and all this stuff. But even smaller companies and smaller games and smaller things than that they want good art, because that's how you sell your game. And so you can have a bad game and it has great art.
Yeah.
And what you have, I think, in the industry a lot is you have indie companies that are looking for work, and you have people that have like successfully funded a Kickstarter or successfully got venture capital, and they're now ready to like pay for artists, and they're ready to go all in for their product to win. So you get to be a part of this new thing. Now, I get asked all the time too, like, who can you help us with our game? We're an indie company. Do you want to be part of our team? And you know, the answer is no.
You're such a mean guy.
I know. I mean, you know, no, it's not my idea. I don't want to just work for free and, well, you know, be part of your game. But I think there's a lot of opportunities out there of smaller companies that have money, that are willing to pay regular or close to regular rates.
Yeah.
You know, and you can definitely put food on your table doing that sort of stuff. And it
Yeah.
might not be, I haven't made it. I'm not working on Halo 5 or Halo 9 or whatever. I'm not working on World of Warcraft or whatever your big thing is, or I'm not doing. That's the other thing too, is like how many games like get kickstarted successfully that are card games or board games, and there's opportunities there to do work for those companies or those people that are doing independent things.
Sure.
And you know, they've just successfully funded hundreds of thousands of dollars on Kickstarter. They're ready to pay some artists to do work, and they're looking for card artists.
Yeah, I'm on a project right now for a company that just started up not too long ago, and I mean, they've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars over a couple of different Kickstarters, and you know, for the Walking Dead license and other stuff, and you know, they've got cash now to commission some artists, and you know, it's fun stuff. It really is. You know, it's outside of the typical trading card art stuff that you would normally see, but you know, I look forward to being able to share it, you know, with people. But you know, one thing I wanted to bring up is, well, what if you're an artist or an illustrator and you don't have interest in getting into gaming? Like, what if your portfolio is full of fairies and children's illustrations, but you really don't know where to go with it? And you know, sometimes I direct people toward storyboarding and advertising illustrations. Advertising agencies always need art for who knows what. You know, I did work for in advertising for almost 5 years, and for TV commercial animatics and storyboards for, you know, commercials and TV shows, and that pays unbelievably well.
Yeah.
For the amount of effort that they're asking for. Like, they're not asking for fully rendered realistic paintings or anything like that. They just want you to convey the idea in the script very, very quickly. And you know, the faster you are, the more they'll use you. So, I mean, that's one type of art job that's outside of the thing that everybody seems to be chasing. But I have friends that pull down 6 figures easy just doing storyboard work, and then take the rest of their time to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, storyboards.
I'm a firm believer of what the last thing you said, which is do what pays the bills, right? I think that there's a tendency and a thought that we're artists. We want to feel good. We want to be. I mean, you're already doing what you love if you get to sit down and put pen to paper every day for money, even if it's not for what you want to do. Like, you're already winning at life, in my opinion, if you have that opportunity to get paid to draw. And I mean, like, just for example, that class game, you know, like the school game, it wasn't what I wanted to do with my life, right? This isn't what I want to post in my portfolio and be known for and do this thing. But it was a project that I believed in, first off. Second off, it was something that paid well, and it was kind of fun. But it took care of my family first and foremost. That gives you the opportunity. Like, money buys you the freedom. So I'm a fan of chasing the money. Like, if I get a job that is maybe not that cool, or maybe it's for like some weird children's mobile games thing or something, but if it's something that fits what I do as a style and fits what I'm capable of doing and it pays the bills, then I'm going to take it, because I want the money, because that money then buys me the freedom to take the time to do what I want to do at night or do my own things, right? And no matter what you do, even if you're chasing your quote unquote passion, then and say you're doing your passion job as your job. You know, say you want to do fantasy illustration, you get this bulk of fantasy illustration work. It's still not your fantasy illustration. You're still being told what to draw and how to do it. And so to me, there's almost no difference. Maybe it's cooler to draw dragons than it is to draw Barney. But at the end of the day, though, you're not drawing your dragon. You're still drawing someone else's dragon.
Yeah.
Right? So do the work, do it well, do what you're good at. But, like, no matter how passionate you are about drawing dragons, when you're drawing someone else's dragon, it will turn into a job. Like, if you get 6 illustrations, by that 6th illustration, you're going to be ready to be done so you can work on your own thing, you know, or you're going to be ready to go on and do another dragon for somebody else. Or, you know, I think no matter what happens, and again, when it is a job, you can still do it well and do your job properly and be a professional. That's what we do. But I'm kind of a firm believer in chasing the money, doing a professional good job so you get more work with them or with other people. But I kind of separate the passion out of what I do, if that makes sense. In other words, I don't own it as mine. I put forth as though it's mine when I'm doing it, but at the end of the day, it's not my project. I still want to work on my own project at night. And so I like to chase the money, because the money is going to be where, you know, you're going to be able to provide for yourself and be able to continue to provide for clients without having to work at the Apple store. And then you're also going to have that freedom to chase your passion projects.
Well,
so, there's weird places where that mixes up, but I don't know what your thoughts are.
Well, I think just, you know, I mean, even besides that, I mean, that I completely agree. I mean, I've came to that conclusion when I was working in a studio when I was working at Red Storm Ubisoft. Wonderful job, wonderful opportunity, great people there. But I found that for myself, I really enjoyed being a little bit more involved in the process. I was passionate about the project I was working on, but I was not in a position that it really mattered what I said or cared or thought about certain things. I was, you know, there were times where I was, you know, put in my place, and I did not feel the incentive anymore to really want to contribute at the level that I wanted to. I realized, just like what you were saying, like I wanted to be take more responsibility and have a little bit more influence on what was going on, and no matter where you're at, the most amazing, you know, company ever that's making the most amazing projects, you know, unless you're the director of that film or the creative designer for the game or whatever it may be, you're ultimately going to be one cog in the middle of, you know, this big machine, and that is totally fun to do. I mean, that's still a really awesome thing to be a part of, and again, loved the projects I worked on and loved to be that little cog. But, you know, it's fun to then on the side and have the opportunity to be the person who comes up with an idea and takes it through, you know, the entire thing. And you need those projects to help you you need the day jobs to help you have the freedom to do that. I was just going to say as well, you know, even if you don't have that ambition, you know, I think what's going to be a big theme for us, here on this show is just is do what you need to do to take care of your family. Like, those of you out there like us who love to create art for work, those opportunities to support your family, to take care of yourself and pay the bills is not only going to be found in the Holy Grail type companies. There's so many other opportunities that are out there.
Right, and I guess I want to add a little clarification to what I'm saying, right? Is I think that I've seen it from a few people. I've kind of maybe done it where I've been like, I've had an opportunity come up and I'm like, no, I'm really trying to work on this thing. And what you're doing isn't what I'm passionate about. And I want to do the work that I'm passionate about. So let's just, let's take the big one that we all know. Let's take Magic the Gathering, right? So you want to paint Magic cards. And that is like, all you want to do in life is do this awesome, high polish fantasy illustration. And so you're sitting there waiting to get your opportunity, and you've talked to them and you're waiting, you got feedback and they want you to do some things, and then they're like, oh, if you do this and you level up, then we'll get you some work. And so you turn down other work on the side because you're waiting to do this one thing, and you're honed in on this one genre, this one piece of work that you're really passionate about. And I guess what I'm saying is, don't wait if you can make money other places. Like, if that's your thing, if you want to do Magic cards, heck, I want to do Magic cards, right? Down the road, that's something I definitely want to do. Is it something I'm gearing myself for now? No. But is it something I would like to do? Sure.
Yeah.
But am I going to turn down other jobs because they're not them? Or then am I going to even turn down other fantasy clients because I'm not them? Yeah. I'm kind of losing my thought, but...
Well, I had a... Oh, go on.
I think that I see artists waiting or turning down things that aren't cool, right? Because they're waiting to get that cool job, or then they're worried that cool job will happen while they're doing this other job that they're not that pumped up about.
Yeah.
And again, I think that no matter what, like whether it's Magic, whether it's this other small job, like either one of those eventually become a job. Like it's still work. Like you're still excited when you finish the project and you get to work on your own thing at the end of the day, no matter how cool the project is. And so what I'm saying is, don't turn down other clients that are less cool, because there is money out there, and don't just limit your vision to just these big high profile things.
Yeah.
Well, there's only so much. There's only so much of that. There's only so many commissions that go out, per round of card art jobs. But there's only so much work to go around, is what I'm saying. And I know a lot of guys that they don't make a living wage just doing Magic cards. I mean, a lot of them do have jobs as art directors, or work at a studio, in a studio setting, doing something else. I think I had said something like this last week. Working for some fantasy art clients, I mean, that may be all you want to do, but it really depends. Doing that work really depends on where you live and what your cost of living is. So, like, if you live at home with your parents and you only want to work for one client, and they're not in any hurry to get you out of their basement, then stay where you are. But if you've got a 2-bedroom and your rent's $2,000 a month, you're gonna have to find something else to do in addition to Magic cards or whatever your freelance client might be. That's just real. So
in the chat here, this is a really good thought by Art by LaRocca in the Twitch chat. Says, I think for a lot of artists, including myself early in my career, they're also looking for the validation you get from working for those clients like wizards. It almost doesn't matter what you've accomplished until that point, because you haven't been accepted by those clients, and therefore you aren't any good. And that's what I thought for a long time. I mean, heck, I still feel that way, right?
Oh, yeah.
I sit down, and we all do. And that is the thing, right? There is some validation that comes with those big names and saying, I mean, you have people out there that introduce themselves as a Magic the Gathering artist, or as a, and we see that as artists that are trying to come up and trying to do things, and it can be dangerous. I think it can be toxic. Not that Magic is dangerous or toxic, it's not, but that mentality of, these are the people that are blowing it up, that are high profile, that we all know their names, and that are just killing it, and they're awesome. But we feel like unless we've worked on those projects, we are not legit
Well, that's
ourselves.
the same thing applies to saying you work for Marvel or DC. I mean, and it's even a step worse when if or better, I guess, whichever side of the fence you're on, to say, yeah, I'm working for Marvel Studios.
Yeah.
um, because that's like the Holy Grail right there. Like, yeah, you do some comic book art, but has Marvel Studios called you up to work on the film yet? Oh no, okay then.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be that that Holy Grail job that everybody is trying to get to, trying to find, and they're just for that validation, just be able to say, yeah, that's what I do. But for every one of those people, there's tons of other folks out there that don't have any interest and get by just fine.
Well, I think the point we're trying to make too is, like, for every one of those jobs that you have, again, like, everyone trying to cram around and get on this project or this company or this thing. There's 100 other companies out there that are, like, scouring the internet trying to find artists.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's kind of the thing. Like, some of the stuff that we've all done is stuff that we wouldn't have set there. You don't sit there and make a goal of, like, I'm going to chase this thing, right? But it pays the bills. It's good work, and it provides you that opportunity to, I mean, some of the things that I've done, they provided money, they provided a living for my family. I was able to pay for my cars and my mortgage and 3 kids, food and everything with some of this work. Was it anything that I want in my portfolio right now to, like, this is what I do? No. I mean, is it still good work and I'm proud of it? Yeah, but I don't necessarily want to say this is because it's oddball stuff. It's not necessarily concept art or illustration. It's still art, and it's still making money, and it's still using my talents. But what it does is that buys you that freedom to make what you want to make. It also buys you the time and the opportunity to continue working on your stuff and leveling up. I mean, that's what I'm doing right now. Like, as I'm freelancing, I'm continually working on my own stuff. I'm practicing daily. I'm trying to learn as much as I can, and I'm trying to produce new content while I have a paying gig, because that's going to propel me forward to get that next paying gig. And so you have to kind of balance that. And so, yeah, the validation thing is a huge thing, because maybe it says, oh, I haven't got to work on this thing. Maybe I'm not good enough. But this other thing still pays me enough to where I can then focus on doing what I need to do to get those dream gigs.
What I also found interesting is how people will use lesser name clients, whether it be comic book art, whether it be fantasy art, trading card art, to get to where they want to be. And they just use it as a jump off and say, well, okay, I'm going to do these lower paying jobs, but really knock them out so that I have further proof to show, instead of just doing samples, I'm getting paid to do it. And they put themselves in that mindset while also getting paid peanuts. Mm-hmm. Instead of working on their own portfolio of what they really want to do and finding work that pays them enough to survive. So, I don't know.
I was going to throw in just another example of some of the things that projects out there that I didn't ever look for, but came my way, which was interesting, and it relates back to some of the story, some of the stuff we've just been talking about. I was approached a little ways back to do some beer labels for a company out in New York, and first off, I don't drink, so I don't know the beer label scene, but and it was funny as I continued to do more and more labels for this company. It was always a funny little thing there because they'd have to like explain some things to me. Anyway, it was a fantastic job, and I again, it was something that I never would have thought of finding, and it wasn't like a huge company. It was a local brewery, but they understood the value of having good art, and they liked the stuff that I was doing, and they felt like it was going to be a good fit. And I got paid more for one of these labels, one of these illustrations, packaging illustration. I got paid more for that than I have ever received from any single, piece of concept art or anything that I've done for video games. It was just a one, it was one illustration that came per thing, but it paid more than, with one exception, it paid more than any other fantasy illustration I had ever done before. And so whenever these came in, it was like, yeah, absolutely. I've got a lot of stuff on my plate, but I want to keep up this relationship because I like working for this company, and they liked working with me, and they were very respectful of the art, and were willing to pay for it. And so it was a great opportunity. And I remember at the time that I was getting these jobs, it was in 2013. I had just decided I was going to go completely freelance, and so I was at a studio at that point. But that was the year I went to Spectrum, and as I was getting ready to go completely freelance, I was also at that time, I was enjoying this work from this brewery, but still in my mind, I had this idea that, I really needed to make it with these big companies. And so I went to Spectrum with the hope that I was going to, make some contact at Wizards or Tor or something like that. And I got there and I met lots of people. And at the time, it was before Wizards had upped their pay, which they've done somewhat recently. But at that point, there were a lot of people who were somewhat discouraged, who were already working at those companies, but weren't getting paid very well. And I was slowly getting an idea of what those actual numbers were, because most of us don't know what these companies even pay, unless you get the job. I was finding out though that I was making more. I had several clients that were already paying me twice as much as some of these big companies were going to pay me, would have paid me if I had gotten hired by them. And while I would still, very much be interested in working for, any company that is interested in working with me, I found I was chasing that dream and realizing that I was already in a better spot than if I were chasing after those particular projects. And I think David LaRocca, welcome, David. I apologize I didn't get you information about this art lounge. He's an old art lounge friend from back in the day. But anyway, his point about the validation, I think, is spot on. I know for myself. I mean, I'm most of the time not very confident in myself and my art, and very self-conscious and think I'm lame and all that stuff. And
yeah, you and like everybody on my Facebook friend list is beating themselves up and looking for likes and stuff.
It's horrible. It's but I think I think hopefully people hearing me say that, and I take value in hearing it from David, that I'm not the only one. Like that, I think that's just part of being an artist.
Andy, I wanted to say that product illustration, packaging illustration, advertising illustration, all pay tremendously well.
Oh yeah.
When Camel Cigarettes was still doing print ads in magazines, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. They did a campaign back in late '99, early 2000s, where they were moving away from the actual camel and going toward more of a film noir kind of like 1930s feel to it, like real ballroom kind of look. Anyway, so they wanted paintings of people in like period clothing and all that stuff. $20,000 per illustration. Those are the kind of
That's crazy talk.
kind of jobs. And you know, I had a friend of mine that was knocked out like 5 of those in a year. You know, and it didn't take him more than a week to do. He was literally laughing all the way to the back. I couldn't believe it. But like, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There's a ton of stuff out there.
Yeah.
So
You just gotta want to do it.
one of my friends from that I worked with Hi-Res and Andrew worked with is Alex Branwin, and she is a very amazing illustrator. She's super awesome, super good to work with, by the way. But she did a lot of that stuff. She did a lot of publication and ad stuff. I think she's done some beer labels and stuff like that. It's just like there's all this cool stuff out there that's really is fulfilling and really is entertaining. I mean, again, I say we get caught in the dragon thing, and there's nothing wrong with painting dragons. There is nothing wrong with it, because we all want to do it. But there's some really cool stuff. I mean, you know, you did these beer labels, Andy. I'm sure that, like, you know, some of those were an absolute blast to paint. You know, it's just out of what you normally are trying to do. It's probably out of what we normally get stuck in like the sci-fi fantasy realm, and it was probably refreshing.
Yeah. Well, it was some of the first projects where someone came to me and just said, "We like you and your artwork just the way it is, and it'll work really well with our product. So, like, just do what you want to do." I mean, they had direction, of course, on what they wanted the product to be. So, I mean, but you know, I didn't need to pretend to be somebody else. I didn't need to, you know, change anything. They were happy and approached me because of my artwork that they already liked. So, it was not only a fun project to work on. You know, they made me feel really good, as opposed to other places where, you know, again, those big companies often have a style already there, and if you're gonna have a shot, you have to change yourself in order to become marketable for them, and so that was a cool experience where I didn't have to go through that. And
We have a
Trying to-
question
yeah.
on the chat. How do you, from Achilles' heel, how do you keep from making a lowball offer? I'll tell you the same thing I tell like students all the time is there's a book from the Graphic Artists Guild called Pricing and Ethical Guidelines. It's been out for years. They come out with a new edition every year. It lists the what you should be charging. It just gives a suggestions for what you should be charging for a variety of different types of illustration work, and logo design, graphic design, children's books, storyboards, book covers, theatrical productions, you name it, it's in there, and it gives you templates for invoices, templates for contracts, and it gives you a starting point so that when you do go into a meeting with a client. Am I getting an echo? Okay, hello?
hello.
Popping through a little bit on Andrew's.
Uh-oh. Sorry, I'll turn you down. Go ahead.
About that, man. All right, so when you do go into a meeting with a client, you want to be in a position where you can say, "Oh, that's a little too low," or be in a better position to negotiate. Because if you walk in or you're on the phone with a client and they say, "Okay, well, this is our rate, you know, take it or leave it," you want to know what you should be getting charged, what you should be charging for that job. A lot of companies will deal with people fresh out of school because they think they don't know what they're doing, or they think they don't know what they should be getting paid, so some clients want to take advantage of that. But if you come in and go, oh no, I think I should be getting paid $50 or $60 an hour, not 15, you know, you know, or that this job should be a $2,000 job, not 200.
Uh-huh.
So, you know, it's a good way to stand your ground and know.
I think for me, I've actually never seen that book. That's interesting. I have always gone basically. I mean,
It's a great book.
One of my things is I've talked to people that I trust. I've talked to friends that have done similar gigs. Hey, this thing, how much would you charge for this? How much have you charged for this? Like, and then kind of basically, that's how I mean, that was early on, like how I got, now I have a pretty set area. Like I know where I want to be hourly. I do not like billing hourly personally. I will if the client wants to, but I try to avoid it. I try to do by the piece or whatever. It's just easier. It eliminates any gray area on your end, on their end. It's just you get this piece of art with X amount of revisions, and I get X amount of dollars. End of discussion. If possible. But
See,
the thing, like even with that, I still try to figure out an hourly rate that I'm comfortable with. And I basically have to sit down and say, hey, what do I need to live? I factor in a lot of things. What do I need to make this worth my time? And do I currently have work on my plate already? Because, right, if you're not working, then you might find yourself in a place of a little more flexibility, right? If you already have good paying clients, then you might find yourself being able to stand your ground really hard and say, this is what I want. So again, supply, demand, oil prices, right? Like where are you at as an individual? That factors in.
Exactly.
Then also just like understanding your worth, understanding like where you're at based on like how many years of experience you have, what level you self-assess your art to be at. And again, I also factor in who the client is. I mean, sometimes I know like if it's a big video game client, they have the money, they need to be spending it. Like they need to be paying me for the product because they're going to make that money back on this big game. If it's for an indie startup thing and it's something that I want to do and they do have money and they go, hey, this is our budget for that. Usually with those kind of places, they're going to say what their budget is. They're going to say, hey, we have a budget of this. We can pay this. Are you okay with that? And sometimes when I get those like smaller clients, like even with the stuff with the class game, the school game, I was like, hey, like you said you have money, but like what's your budget? Like what are you looking at? What are you able to do? And so there was able to be a little more transparent conversation with them. As far as like with video game clients and stuff like that, you just kind of have to understand what your rate should be. And I mean, Eric's book sounds like a great place to start. I gathered all that information by just talking to people, figuring it out, and and then also further bolstered that by contracting people. When I was working at High Res, and it was interesting to see like that I was pretty much dead on for what I thought I should make comparative to my years of experience and my time in the industry and what I had made previously. I feel, early on, I think my first couple jobs I got taken advantage of a little bit, but but again, I didn't have any experience, so so at that point, it's kind of hard. But I think at this point, you just have to factor it in, who they are, what the project is, how much it is. I also factor in how long it is going to be. If it's a one-off, if it's a single illustration, if I quote something or an hourly rate for a single thing or like a week's worth of work, I might stick my ground a little bit. If they go, hey, well, we want you to come down to this level, but we basically have six months of work, then I might say, oh, do the math on that. Oh, okay, yeah, I can pay my bills with that. Then I'm a little more comfortable going somewhere. And then again, it's just negotiation. So I don't know how you do it, Andrew. Do you have like a hard set line or do you kind of fluctuate or?
It's interesting because I think it's very much you hit it on the nail. It's an economic thing for me, and I'll tell you, I'd study some basic economics and think about some of this stuff, and I'm a big fan of just studying this sort of thing, and it's really impacted my freelancing career, surprisingly. But for me, it's my rates. Normally, I have a rate that I know I would prefer to get and I'd feel comfortable getting, but at the same time, that changes that can change based on what's going on. If I, if you're busy, then there is no hard set. This is what a person in your industry is supposed to make, and this is the way it is. I mean, you're obviously in a better position if you're busy and you can decide. You don't have to take the job. But I was just gonna say you do need to kind of value yourself a little bit more than you probably do. Take into consideration, how many people are out there that can do what you do, and give value yourself highly enough. Being realistic. If you're new, then you're going to have to go with certain prices that you are not where you want them to be, but you hope that they'll get there eventually. But if you're busy and you don't have to take a client, you're in the position to say, I think I deserve this, and I'm busy. I don't have time to do this. I've had this conversation with many clients in the past. I've been very fortunate that I've been very busy since I started my freelancing career, and I've had more conversations with people saying, I'm sorry, I know, this is a great job. I'd love to take it, but I'm currently got my plate filled up. I have a little bit of time, but I need to be paid this much in order to take this job, and it's higher. I don't say this, but I know in my head that this is a higher rate than what I normally would charge, or maybe even higher than what I'm charging a different client that I'm working with at that moment. But you get to decide what you feel your value is, and then you'll learn. If you go, I'm worth this much, and everybody's banging down your door, then you might go, well, okay, maybe I need to charge a little bit more. And if you're charging X number and nobody calls you, and nobody, takes you up on the project, then you might be charging too much. And I've had to adjust that regularly, and it also depends on the circumstance. I've taken jobs in the last year that that paid much less than what I would have preferred to pay, but at that point, I wasn't sure what the next month would bring, and so I was like, okay, well, I'll take that job. I'm in no position to negotiate, but I'm also not a negotiator, except when I know what the facts are. I'm not one to go and say, I want to make more money, so I really think you should pay me more money. It's all based on what my current situation is. If I'm busy and I don't need the job, I say, this is how I might charge more, because I'm sacrificing my sleep time. I'm sacrificing time with my family. I'm sacrificing any personal projects that I care to work on so that I can take this job. And you have to decide what that value is too. And that's really, really important. We often don't give our personal lives enough value and put that money on it. But I may not be there's different sides of the spectrum. I mean, I don't know. Anyway.
So one of the interesting things too to think about is, if you're busy and if you're in that situation, is this client one that you basically want to keep in your good graces, right? You want to remain in their favor and say, hey, look, I'm busy right now, but I would really like to work with you in the future. And so that's one of those things I weigh too, instead of just going like nuts and like, oh, we want, because I've turned a couple people down recently, and I've said, look, I'm on this big job, but I would like to maybe work for you when this is done. And so don't just come back with like the rude answer of like,
yeah,
oh, well, I'm making $1 bazillion for these guys, so you can pay me $1.5 billion and I'll be a mercenary and come work for you. Definitely don't play that card.
No.
But I mean, it is a balance. Like, you are certainly in a place where if you get contacted from someone, you can say, hey, like, and you're not telling them that, but what you're actually saying is, I'm making this much to do a similar thing for this company. You need to pay me at least that much. And that number might be high for that current client that's contacting you based on who they are. And they might come back, and this has happened too, where I've literally quoted exactly what I'm getting paid from another job. And they come back and I get the sticker shock face, and they're like, oh, yeah, we can't afford that. Okay, well, I can't afford to, I mean, is there any way you can help us? Like, I can't, I'm a benevolent human being, but I'm not that nice. So I can't just like help you out with your thing.
Well,
This is a business market, and you have to run it like a business.
well, and
So
you as well. You're yeah, just like that. You're gonna find that there might be a job that you would love to take, but you're busy, and so you give them a quote, and you might have to stick to your guns and lose that job. But I've also had people who have come back to me. I've had jobs that I thought were gone because I said this is how much it's going to cost, and I valued myself. Again, I'm about 70% think I'm a hack, and then 30% think I'm worth being paid for doing artwork. But in those times where I stick to my guns, I've had several times when those clients have come back to me and said, okay, you know, we couldn't afford you, and we tried to go out with other people, but we didn't get the results that we wanted. And okay, we're willing at this point to pay a little bit more to have you come and work on this project. And so a job,
that's the best feeling, though, right?
it
That's
is.
happened once or twice, and it's just because it completely, it validates you as an artist and as a thing, and you're like, okay, look, like you're right. Like I told you before that I'm going to offer you a good product, and now you're coming back to me asking for that product.
Yeah.
And so it validates that, but it also validates like what you quoted before, and you say, see, like you tried to go low, I quoted high, you kind of didn't come to an agreement, and you went with someone else, and now you're coming back to me to either A, fix it, or do it again, or that you're not getting those results. It's a selfishly good. As artists, we're craving that validation, and we all struggle with at least every artist that I know,
And while
we
you're
all
on the
struggle
call,
with that personal value, and so when you get that moment, it's a big win for you personally as an artist, and then yeah, but then you tackle that job with a lot more vigor and a lot more enthusiasm, and you say, all right, well, I'm really gonna kick butt for these guys.
And when you're back to the negotiation stage, you say, well, since you left and came back, I'm going to charge you 20% more just for messing with me.
Man, you're confident. I'm not that confident.
You go for it, Eric. Let me know how that works out for you.
No, I always think about it in the back of my head, but it's never spoken.
No, it's I think people. I mean, you got to know your own situation and know your skills and know where you're at, but I find that there are a lot of people, and maybe I'm speaking to the mediocre, not poor artists, but the mediocre ones like myself who can do a good job and can give someone something of value. I've found a lot of artists like that, and maybe I'm also just speaking about myself, that they can provide a good product, and if you know this and you're confident enough in yourself, you can you can promise people that sort of thing. You can when you say, I'm going to do this, and this is valuable. I'm not going to be late on an assignment. I'm going to communicate with you fantastically. There's never going to be a time when you don't know where I'm at on this project, and I'm going to give you good results. You've seen the stuff I've done in the past. You know my portfolio. When you those are valuable things to promise to people, and the right clients appreciate that. They don't. There's always going to be the client that just goes.
Man, I think almost every client values that. That's a really thing, man. Talk about that for hours, because that's one of the things I hit on before. It's one of those things that, again. So going back to my friend Alex, like when I was working on the Paladin cards, I'm gonna talk about her for a minute. So I looked at her portfolio and her stuff, and I said, man, I don't know, like this doesn't necessarily seem like what we're going for, right? But she was a good artist. And I did this with a few other people where I said, hey, I'm going to give you like a card, like a trial card. We'll pay you for it. It's not an art. Like, we'll pay you for a card. And if this artist doesn't work out, then hey, we're out a card. And maybe if they're really, really terrible, we have to have a card redone, one. So not a huge risk. But so I took a chance on Alex, and man, she came back, and I can't speak highly enough. So, and there's other artists that did this, but she came back, she put out 5 sketches, they were on style, and she delivered that finished artwork in, like, her turnaround was maybe a day or 2. It was fast, and it was a nicely illustrated card, and I was just like, man, done. I was impressed by that. I still felt like that first card wasn't quite on style. There was also some changes from the studio that came down that I didn't know about. So there's that whole thing. Well, her second card came back, and I gave her another card, and her second card came back. And again, her communication was impeccable. Her timeliness was awesome. Her if I said, hey, can we change this and that? It wasn't, well, I think that we need to do this. And sometimes that's okay to do as an artist too, like understand that. Like sometimes your job is to know what is right and to tell your client that. But when your client says, hey, we need this change and this is why, and she just goes, okay, yeah, cool, I'm going to totally do this. Does that fix it for you? That fixes my life. Like that's amazing. Like that's not, I don't see it as a common thing. And artists we learn how to draw, and we learn how to do all this stuff, but one of the things we're missing out on is how to do the business side of things, and how to talk to people, and how to communicate with clients, and how to keep up with them. And she came back with this card, and I literally I was like, you keep doing this, and you keep this level up and this thing, like, you have as much work as you want, as long as the project is ongoing. And I think that's one of those things, like you were saying, that's the stuff that that's valuing yourself beyond just how you put stylus to tablet or pen to paper, is how you communicate and how you conduct your business and how you handle yourself. And I think that's super undervalued, and it's not undervalued by your clients.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the things I know that I've gotten jobs because of how I've handled myself talking to a potential client, and that I look at it and again, I'm the same way where I'm full self-doubt. I'm not that great of an artist, I don't think. I think I'm competent and I can produce stuff, but I'm not, I don't feel like I'm going to blow anyone away, But
Oh, stop it.
when I look at it and it's like, why did I get this job over this person? Like, they chose me. That's pretty cool. But I think that a lot of that comes from that, being able to do that, being able to handle your business, like you were saying, Andrew.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's definitely going to be something we need to talk about, do on another show, because I think that's. I know I was trained in school. I didn't. There wasn't a whole lot of specifics as far as business where I studied, but we were definitely trained very, very thoroughly about the importance of being a professional, and I think that's something that's, I don't know if it's a dying thing, but I think there's so many sensations, people, with everybody on on social media and posting things and feeling really good about themselves. There's a lot of people that are out there that are just becoming these superstars because they've got a billion likes and a billion followers, but they may not necessarily have had the opportunity to actually practice good business and whatnot. They might. Anyway, I think just integrity. You say you're going to do this, you follow through and you do it, even if that means you skip sleeping a couple nights and you do all this stuff. Like, those things are important parts of being a freelancer. I think we're going to set aside an entire show to talk about that at some point.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, it can't, I don't think that can be talked about enough, personally. Like, I just think it's just what I've seen, it's what I've experienced, and man, valuing yourself and valuing your client are two ways that, like, you're just going to get work, and you're going to keep that work. That's the other thing too, is maybe you can get a job, and maybe you can get this, like, crazy cool, maybe you can get that beer label job that's really well paying and super fun and super free, and just do you and we'll pay you for it. But if Andrew came back and was all rock star about how he was, or his attitude, or he wasn't good at communicating or good at producing the art, or he didn't communicate or produce anything for a couple weeks, they probably would not have come back, no matter how much they loved his art. And yeah, so it's part of that, getting those crazy clients, but keeping those crazy cool clients.
Yeah. Any other, we're getting near the end. Any other jobs that you guys can think of? I mean, we're just examples of ideas of things that are outside of the norm, or the kind of the jobs that people wouldn't think about looking towards as a commercial artist. Anything that stand out to you guys that from your experience that should be mentioned? I mean, it's funny. It's like even just if you had an idea of a company, like I'm gonna throw this out. I don't even know how to say it because I'm in the same boat of I've worked for this company. I'd love to work for more companies like it. So what is this company even? What category does this company fit in? How do I Google search and find this type of company? But I've worked for a company, and I don't even know how huge they are or small or whatever they are, but they're kind of an advertising company called PsyOp. They're a fantastic company that I've worked with many times, and but I do for them I'll do stuff like again pitches for games or small mobile games, and it'll just be small amount of material, but it'll be like 2 or 3 days full time working at my desired hourly rate, and they're happy to pay those things, and that's I don't know exactly what category they fit into. I think they're more of an advertising or not advertising, more of a production company or see, this is what the problem. I don't even know what it is, but if even you guys have thought of types of industry that advertising was already brought up by Eric.
Well, there's
packaging art.
Right, but there are packaging, product illustration.
Yeah.
I was doing work for a pharmaceutical ad agency for almost a year. It's nothing I want to throw into my portfolio, but paid by far better than a lot of the client work I'd been picking up outside of that. What you're saying about PsyOp, I mean, their film production, I don't want to say visual effects, but they I know they do a lot of like trailers and advertising for movies and stuff like that. I know because they have a location here in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, there's it just depends on where you want to be, where your interest lies.
So this is not work that I have done, but kind of in the vein of what we're talking about. I've been paying attention to when I see cool art around on different things, and it's like legitimately good art. So one of the places, we were at the mall maybe a couple weeks ago, and we stopped at the makeup counter, one of the makeup counters in like Macy's or whatever. I don't even remember what the company is called, but they got like this kind of hip, cool. Let me see. I think. Anyway, they just have all this cool marketing art and all this cool art on all their different makeup things, their different makeup brands, their makeup lines, and all this cool stuff. And it was cool enough that I almost was like, the company's called Benefit. So it's like a benefit makeup company. And they have like one of the lines they have is like the professional, and it's like this pore cleansing face treatment line of stuff. But it has all this cool like comic-y 1940s Dick Tracy looking girl on it, and like all this cool art. Like you would never think that someone made that art, and someone that's actually pretty good at art made that art.
Mm-hmm.
And you just see this stuff everywhere. One of the other things I saw recently was one of my, I'll say it was my kids, but it was probably mine. One of the Lego catalogs came in the mail, and it had an illustrated cover. And then I think one of them I saw, one of the Lego covers I saw was I actually saw somehow friends with them on Facebook or something or other, that someone had done that, and was one of the artists that we're probably all friends with on Facebook had done one of these illustrated covers for the Lego group for their magazine or their holiday shop at home catalog thing. There's tons of stuff out there, and again, it's like, how do you find it? How do you search? Well, I want to do Lego covers, and how do you reach out to all of those people? You can. I don't know.
I would throw out one thing as well, just to be very clear as well. While many of the things we've talked about here are um, they're really good things for people to be looking out for as opportunities that they may not have considered before. It's not to say that those things don't have people already in those industries, illustrators who aren't thinking about that as their primary thing. Things like packaging, illustration, whatever, they seem like new ideas for us who have a focus in, our niche markets in video games and fantasy art and things like that. So working on a beer label seems like, wow, I hope that's what that anybody listening to this is getting, is going, wow, I had never thought about that. That's not to say that those are easy jobs to get, that there isn't going to be competition, because that's a whole other industry, that there are a ton of illustrators who are in that industry looking for that stuff. It just so happens that there's a lot of beer out there to be made and packaged. There's a lot of pharmaceuticals, to be, advertising to do. There's all these are good avenues to keep in mind and think about, and think beyond what we normally think about. But I don't want anybody to go in there going, all right, that's it. I just got to, send something in and I'm going to get a job immediately from this. It's possible, but there is definitely also competition out there.
Right, and I think that's the thing. If there is like a takeaway that we're trying to leave here, it's to
broaden your horizons.
open. Yeah, you can like zone in and say, I'm gonna do these card illustrations. I'm gonna work for this video game company. I'm gonna do, but they're, like you said, don't hear what we're saying and say, I'm gonna build a beer label portfolio. I'm not saying don't do that, but just keep your options open. Right?
Yeah.
If you zone in and you forget about all these other opportunities out there.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the whole overall point we're trying to make. And we're not speaking authoritatively like, this is what you need to do. We're just literally a couple guys talking about what we've experienced and what we've seen. And this whole conversation came from a conversation we had a few weeks ago where we were talking about all this stuff and feeling like our industry is a little bit incestuous and that everyone is just looking at all the same things, but people with our skill base and our talents and what we do and the things we know, they apply outside of maybe even entertainment.
Yeah.
And so,
well, and it's a funny thing, because just real quick, sorry, Eric and I introduced myself to Eric a little ways back because he was interviewed on One Fantastic Week, and I heard his interview, and I was just totally impressed with him, and because he seemed to have as varied and as I hope this is okay to say, Eric, don't unconventional or not the golden path that I had seen so many people who are the pseudo celebrities in our industry follow, and that was a path that I had taken. I'm very, I'll probably for the rest of my life have the mindset of my gut reaction is, if somebody comes with me with a job, I'm going to take it. Because I've been a starving artist, for long periods of my life, and had a family. So I take jobs that just come whenever. But there was a part of me, going back to that validation, there was a part of me that felt like, man, I'm just a lame artist because I am just taking any job that comes. And if I were a good artist, I'd just have this huge, demand from only the big companies, and only, and I'd only be working in this industry and never, I'm this artist. I'm not that artist. I wouldn't, I felt like I wasn't as good of an artist because I had this, unique thing. And I hadn't spoken to enough people and seen, and Eric, I was just blown away by his artwork, which is something I value, is seeing the talent of people. And then to see that, this is the path that he took, I got, oh, wow. Good, real artists, take this path, and now at this point, I champion that. I say that's a fantastic thing. And anyway, I just was going to throw that out there. I don't remember if we talked about it, but that was I wanted to meet Eric for this reason. Like, I was just impressed by his work what what path his career had taken over time, because it was something I thought was neat. Anyway.
Every illustrator I've ever met that has had longevity in their career is capable of doing more than one thing.
Yeah.
Illustration by itself, if you're working as an illustrator, you're working as a commercial illustrator. That's the full title. Like, you're not a fine artist.
Mm-hmm.
You are working for clients, multiple clients. So, it's basically like you're a mercenary. Somebody wants you to paint a donut, you're going to paint a donut. Somebody wants you to paint a spaceship, you're going to paint a spaceship. You might put more love into painting that spaceship than the donut, but the donut
I love
might
donuts,
pay you
though.
more. So, you have to go where the work is. And, years down the line, somebody might not want you to paint spaceships anymore because your design aesthetic might be out of date, but somebody's always going to want to paint a donut or whatever it may be. And as a commercial illustrator, to be able to say, yeah, I do more than one thing, I can help you out, and have a little hand in a little portfolio, a little hand in each, multiple pots, will guarantee that you're not going to be sitting there for days or weeks or months at a time waiting for that one client to call you back.
Yeah.
With more card art that might never happen.
Yeah.
So it's just being real.
Yep.
Not that we would have this every week, but I have some literature to recommend. There's a great book out there. I think I've talked to you, Randall, about it. Who Stole My Cheese? I don't think I have it on hand. I can hold it up, but and I can't even remember.
Let me see what it was. I think.
But it's all about this point. Like, don't wait for the one thing to come around. If you did good with this thing once, you're not guaranteed to continue being successful because of that one thing. Go and look for, make yourself available, find all the opportunities that are out there, be open to those opportunities.
No, it's called Who Moved My Cheese.
Who moved my cheese? Not who stole my cheese, sorry. Who moved my
So
cheese?
Are you guys familiar with the illustrator Dean Cornwell?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So Dean Cornwell did murals.
Mm-hmm.
He did caricature art. He did editorial. He did war paintings. He was a jack of all trades. He was a commercial illustrator.
Yeah.
And a lot of those guys went back and forth in their own head over, like, should I be doing fine art or illustration? But the rates for illustration were way higher then than they are now. But that's just one guy where you look at his paintings and you go, God, he's so amazing.
Yeah.
But he's also capable of doing a lot more than just that one working in one style.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's a really great point.
I think that what we're talking about, you look at all those, all the old-time artists that we look back maybe 50, 60, 70 years and talk about, all these guys were doing all this stuff. Like, they were just, I'll do a Macy's ad, I'll do a magazine cover, I'll do a book cover, I'll do an album cover, I'll do, whatever. You even, you look at Drew Struzan more recently. That dude was doing album covers and advertising things and marketing things and all this stuff before he ever was famous for movie posters.
Yeah.
But I think that's, again, when we say all this stuff, like Andrew said, we're saying this to the community of people that we're kind of engaged with on social media and in the circles of, hey, game artists, fantasy artists, sci-fi illustrators. Like, we look at these people that are top row on ArtStation and we're like, man, I got to be doing that. Like, I got to do environments like that to get work. And that's not necessarily true. Like, you can get work. Maybe that's the work that you want to do, and maybe that'll lead you to the dream gig. And so keep working on those things. But be aware that there is a whole world of art out there and people that need art.
Yeah.
That is beyond video games. It's beyond fantasy, board games or fantasy gaming or fantasy novels and sci-fi stuff. So there's a lot of stuff out there. So, and as I think, hopefully, fingers crossed, the trend continues. But first off, we're going to need more art. The world is just going to continue to need art. It's not going to die. more demand for art right now than I think ever. But also, even with the fantasy and sci-fi stuff, that stuff's all cool, right? It's not just a niche nerdy thing right now. Like, there's movies, there's books, that stuff is popular, it's pop culture. So there's a lot more stuff out there that are using the kind of art that we like to create.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a lot of opportunities out there, but
yeah,
finding them is a trick. I think we're just talking about being aware of that and understanding that there's things out there beyond working for your dream game company.
Yep. I'm gonna stop. Not the thing. We'll stop whenever you guys are ready. But I haven't even thought about how I'm gonna paint Bilbo here. So
So you can be done.
well, I might stop before. I mean, I'll keep painting, but
what you should do is actually just erase him out and just do the background and then title it Bilbo with the ring on.
That's it.
Or
I
just,
like it.
Fade out his lower half.
There we go. Hey, I was thinking actually, I'm doing this March of Robots thing, and it's been lots of fun to work on doing it every day. And I decided there's going to be a point where I just have to do a cop out. I just don't have time to paint a robot, so I'm going to do an invisible robot, and I'll like have a blank page with an antenna, and this one has a cloaking device.
Yeah. So one of my friends, his son came to him with a blank piece of paper. It was like a blank green piece of construction paper, and he took it to school apparently and showed it to the teacher. But was like, yeah, this is a chameleon. And it was just blank. It was a blank piece of green paper. They had to create their favorite animal.
Nice.
So he drew a chameleon. He was like, it's a chameleon. You can't see it. It's invisible.
Nice.
Even kids get it. Kids get how to cheat.
Yep. Polar bear in a snowstorm.
I mean, I don't know if anyone else, we have viewers on, I don't know if anyone else has any questions or anything else.
Yeah.
Or anything to add. I mean,
Yeah.
again, we're open. We're not special. We're just doing the thing. Hopefully
Doing
making money,
the thing.
trying to grind it out day by day. So
Yep.
yeah, this is good stuff. I mean, it's important things. I think Andrew probably hit the most important point of
Sweet.
continuing to
10 points for me.
Those skills beyond the art, and that can sometimes give you work. And I think to me, that's the most important thing. So, because I feel like I've got work that way, and I feel like I've worked with other people and kept working with other people because of that, or seeing it from other artists, or when I was working with artists that I was responsible for assigning work out to them. That was the most important thing to me, was beyond their level of art, was their level of professionalism and communication and all those things. I mean, that's a horse that's been beat to death by everybody else that talks online about how to make it in this industry, but I really don't think it can be stressed enough, and I think people are missing it. So
There you go. I agree.
that's kind of my last thoughts. I don't know if you guys have anything else.
No, I think we're good. We'll post this stuff up. Post this up on YouTube here shortly. But yeah.
Yeah, thanks everyone for stopping in.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it, and thanks for interaction. And so next week, I think we'll probably end up maybe skipping next week. Not sure. We hadn't discussed fully. Andrew, you're going to be at GDC.
I'm going to be at GDC, so if I'm there, I'll be doing it from a hotel room on my laptop. But yeah.
So, okay, yeah.
We'll talk about it.
We'll let you all know. One of the things we had discussed was going forward. The first couple weeks was we wanted to do weekly, and then moving forward, we were going to be long-term, switching to a bi-weekly schedule. It's more maintainable for us. We can put more focus in on an individual topic, and kind of do a bi-weekly thing moving forward for the time being. But yeah, we'll figure out what we're doing next week, and we'll let you all know.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming. We will catch you next time.
Cheers, all.
See ya.
All right.